25 states plus DC. But that process, I think, is worthy, especially now more than ever in the last couple of years, of being fully explained for the electorate. We don't send information. It gets encrypted here, and then the encryptions across the other 25 member states plus DC are compared. So it's these hash codes that are assessed as being matches. We don't provide anyone's private information to Eric. We don't send it anywhere because you're absolutely right. That would be criminal in nature and unethical on top of a number of other things. Still an important tool in helping to ensure our voter rolls, but I think the bottom line is, one, we need to increase the amount of detail and explanation to provide that clarity and reassurance, including the statutory authority to be engaged in that system. And then the one other thing I wanted to mention is that, as you highlighted too in that second paragraph, and I'm looking now on page 18 under the ERIC section, and really even the list maintenance section above that as well. All of these different methods for voter list maintenance, starting on page 16, they all talk about essentially comparisons that ultimately are done. And you mentioned the secretary having a role in that. But I want to reassure you that while there's a technical comparison piece, all of the information ultimately is provided to our 17 county election officials, the clerks and registrars, because under statute, they alone have the authority to make those sorts of changes. So while the state may receive information from vital statistics, while we receive information now from the Department of Corrections in a relatively new process by which the Department of Corrections sends us a list daily of every felon who has started in incarceration, while we conduct a technical comparison of that list to our statewide voter registration list to identify individuals who are registered voters but need to have their registrations canceled pursuant to 293 as well. Those actions are done at the county level. And if we say, because it turns out, and this is a good example with the Department of Corrections, turns out not every felon is honest about their name or birth date before they start their incarceration. If the county election official says, I see the first name matches, I see the last name matches, birth date doesn't, some other information doesn't, even if it may seem, it's ultimately a county decision to cancel, for example, that voter registration. And if it doesn't match, I will tell you they defer in my conversations with them to not, because it's better to not cancel a registration than to risk disenfranchising somebody.
Right. I think the process that they most normally go through is that if there is a similar name that doesn't match all of them, they at least send them the notice saying that we would like you just to update your records, because I know that I've received that myself, at least Washoe County. So you're right. I think that if there is not a hit, then that's one of the reasons why we do that. And that gets me to the next point. What is really missing here, and it really has to be in here, is the register of voters and the clerk's authority to use the national change of address, which has been on the books for many, many years. And it's completely, there's very general statements to it, but it needs to be a full section of what the register of voters and the clerk should do. One, under NRS 293-5303, they can contract with the U.S. Postal Service or a third-party vendor that has access and authority to obtain the United States Postal Service information. First of all, it's my understanding that ERIC costs the state about $1 million or over a period of time, but that could be wrong. But it's far more expensive than getting a list of the national change of address. The national change of address also can be published every month. It doesn't have to be every 60 days, or it could be 60 days based on what the registrar wants to do. It could be 90 days. I would suggest it's a lot different, but the reasoning that this needs to be in there is that this is a specific tool that the Nevada legislature has provided. Okay, and it is the under 5303. It is discretionary. They don't have to do it, but once they do it, okay, then they must send notices when they get the notice of change of address. And the thing that is problematic in here is that this is a specific statute, and what we have here is a system that kind of circumvents it from the Secretary of State's position by saying, you don't need to do that, we'll get you ERIC. Okay, ERIC is only 25 states. but let's do Eric instead. So it gives this false sense of security by saying we're going to use Eric, then when we have this great system of using national change of address. And the thing that we have in this is that it can be clearly set out. Look, you don't have to do this, but you can. And if you get this, here's what it happens. This registrar of voters will call up and find out it's probably like $20. It's for them to run it. It's very cheap. They will get the information and they will send out a notice under 293-530. If that notice is not returned, if that notice is returned for cancellation, things of that nature, they get to take that. But those people, will be removed from the active list and put on inactive for the two elections, general elections. They're not canceled yet. But they are removed from the active. It will create a significant financial boom for the counties who do not have to send ballots to inactive people that have not voted and have changed their address. And most importantly, which is kind of lucky, I think, for us, because normally our statutes are not very good. But this statute really helps when we started doing mail-in ballots, because this is really the only way that you can get a hold of a registered voter who has moved to make sure that they're going to get their ballot. It's a 100% positive thing, because if you get a notice of change of address every 30 days, and you send a notice every 30 days pursuant to NRS 293-530, that person's going to get it, and they're going to say, wait, I'm only going to be gone for 3 months. I'm a college student. I've done a notice of change of address and things of that nature. The other thing that you're going to get is that every election since I've been doing this, there is always someone that says, oh, look at these 800 voters. And out of those 800 voters, there's 50 that are in the Air Force. There's 25 that are and they say, look at all, and it causes chaos. And my party is just as guilty of that stuff. And that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that these are specific so that we don't have the fly-by-night organizations that come in and throw up all these things and say, this election is this way. That is not what we're here for. We're here to make sure it says, every 30 days, we send it out. Our list maintenances are going to be cleaned up in 9 months, and they're going to be great because we're going to have everybody there. So I think it's really, really important that that is available, not only for the public, so that the public can start contacting the registrar of voters and their county clerks to say, we want you to do this. County commissioners can say, hey, we want you to do this. And the Secretary of State can say, this is another one. And it's clear that the Secretary of State likes that, because in the next section about challenges, it says that when you get a affidavit or something of that nature, you should confirm by using the national change of address form. And we'll get to that in a second. So that is above and beyond what you have to do in regards to the section that I'll get to, but it shows that we have that ability, and we need to have that within it. So I would suggest that there is a section specifically into their registrar of voters that they have NRS 293.530, 5303, and 5307 to maintain their voter rolls, but through the national change of address forms, which I think will be not only financially helpful for the counties in regards to sending ballots, sample ballots, all of that stuff, but it will also protect the voters who are unaware that they may not get a vote, because their ballot was not forwarded under the new mail-in ballots.
Mr. Marr, may I? Mark Flosh for the record. Two quick comments. One, I'm looking at the invoice from Eric. This is over a 12-month period from July 1st of 25 up through June 30th, 26. A grand total of $1,884. So not quite $1 million.
Well, that's clearly not even close. So I would like to find out from who told me that and see what that is. But
send them my way as well, please.
And that's something that, that is something that we'll have to do. And my understanding was it came out of the budget. So who knows what?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that for the record.
Thank you for doing it. That is great. Thank you.
The other comment I want to make about the national change of address process, two things. First of all, Secretary Aguilar continues to push us at the state as well as the counties to think about what has been done in the past and what can we do better, not to just do things because we do things. The national change of address process has made some changes over the last couple of years. Used to be that they didn't allow you to identify if it was a short-term move They recently, this was in the past, I think, year or two, now added a box. When I moved myself, my family here in Carson City, and we went through the process, it asks you, is this less than 3 months or less than 6 months? Trying to indicate if it's a summer move or someone's taking care of grandma, that sort of thing. A temporary move, perhaps to school or something. Because that wasn't there before, I know in talking to some of our clerks and registrars who've been around for longer periods than I would have been, that because Nevadans are so transient and because so many folks want to, rightly so, I think, move to our state, it was a problem where folks would move to, especially our larger counties, the larger five of Clark, Washoe, Carson, Lyon, and Douglas. But then oftentimes would move inside the counties. Oftentimes would leave for to go home for summer or come back and forth, and would use the NCOA process. And I've heard that when it was used, and this is obviously years ago now, more often than not, folks would say, "Why'd you change that? Like I wanted to keep my original address." That being said, again, if the system has changed, if the opportunities are there to continue improving our list maintenance processes, then it's absolutely worthy of assessment. So I just want to reassure you that we will take and continue to take a close look at that and see what we can do to improve the process collectively.
One of the things I will add is that if you go back into the legislative history, all the way back to 1976, which is I think the last time I was able to, I mean, one of the things that was done when we were talking about this statute, of course I wasn't talking since I was born that year, but was a candidate that talked about having these list maintenance and having this process is necessary also for candidates because they spend an awful lot of time walking precincts and spending money in that regard, and that's one of the things. And I think that that what we can't lose faith in the fact that the Register of Voters down in Clark County was one of the major persons that was against using the national change of address, or really about the challenges, the issue, because you get a lot of these things and they would have to spend money. But the thing about it is, since that's happened, we've also had mail-in ballot that's changed, which is what I said is like kind of a gift that we have the statute already on there, because now we have a mechanism to try to teach people, such as the person that checks 3 months or 6 months, right? It doesn't really matter in that regard whether they check 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, because we need to know where they live in order to get them a ballot if they are a valid resident, and we need to know if they are not, whether or not we can just go ahead and remove them on the inactive list. Of course, that person, when they get the notice, they can also just, there's a form. I don't believe only Clark County has the form that says, I do not want to be on I no longer live here, please remove me. I don't believe any of the other counties have that same form. At least I don't believe they did during the last election period when we were doing research.
It's also available online too. We push people towards vote.nv.gov. There's a quick link at the bottom to cancel registration. It takes minutes.
For the Secretary of State's website.
From the Secretary to the county, so in near real time.
I mean, we're moving forward. So yeah, so I think that those are really, I mean, I think that process is, because it is an actual statutory authority, it needs to be within the guidelines that they have that option. It cannot just be like, well, it wasn't really working in the past, so it's not included in the guidelines. It has to be in there because they need to know whether or not that's something that they want to do. Some of the smaller counties, Clark County may say no, and then they're going to have the public saying, look, you can do this. The county commissioner is saying, look, you can do this, do it. Or like such counties like Humboldt County, they may only have 3 that go out every month, so they're like, this is great. It's I get my list maintenances are going to be clean and things of that nature. So I really want to make sure that section really has something in there that we move forward with. I think it is very important that those statutes and that procedure is available. The other thing, and I also want to I'm going to try to just maybe go over one more thing, and then I'm going to offer my services, obviously, that we can sit down and you told me to really delve into it and mark it up. I was really hoping that before I would do that, you guys would put your statutes in there so I could look it up, and then I would be able to really tear it apart or compliment you, obviously, because I do believe that this is really good in many cases. And then we get to the same thing on the page 23, which is other list maintenance sources. which is what I was talking about. It says, to protect voters, the Secretary of State recommends that counties request an affidavit explaining the basis for asserting that a voter has changed residence. That's the problem with that, is that you don't have NRS 293.535, which is where you provide an affidavit that someone's done the residency. So you have no idea what they're talking about. And the thing about it is that that statute specifically tells you what the registrars need to look at. It needs to be a statement. It needs to be the addresses, things of that nature. It's a very easy thing to do, but it does not require an affidavit asserting that, explaining the basis is really this person used to live here and now the person lives in another state and here's their address there. Those are the requirements that you need to have. But it then says the county should confirm information through independent vetted sources such as the United States Postal Service change of address database. Well, under NRS 293.530 and even 293.547, there's no mechanism for them to independently vet sources. Now, 547, there's going to be an independent evaluation by the district attorney if there's someone there, but we're wasting a little bit of time and causing the clerks to do more than they need to. Once the challenge under 293.535 is filed, the notice needs to be sent out with that affidavit to that individual. So there's no, is there anything that is illegal about it? Is that going above and beyond the law? Yeah, it's going above and beyond the law because it's not required. They still have to send that affidavit. One, the individual that is being challenged has a right to know that they have been challenged. So regardless of what the challenge says, or if anything, if it shows an address and it says what it's supposed to say, it has to be done. Whether they went off and said, oh, wait, we can't confirm this through Eric, or we can't confirm it through our necessary means. No, the challenge has been made and it needs to be processed accordingly under NRS 293.535. And that's another reason why when you're talking about vetting sources using the national change of address, we know that is now a reliable source if we're going to use it to vet those things. So we do need to, there's nothing in here, again, about it's kind of difficult to understand whether it's a challenge or if it's an affidavit because the statute is kind of one of our many statutes. But it just requires an affidavit showing that person is a registrar, is now no longer. But I think that something needs to be in there that says once you've received this form, this is what you need to do. You need to automatically send it to that person because they're entitled to know. They're entitled to know if they're being challenged in that regard and whether or not they're, for example, they're in school or they are in the military or something of that nature. The thing that is also important is that when we send these things away, it's not just we're protecting a person's right to vote by giving them the opportunity to say, no, this is me and I want to be voted or something of that nature. But it also gives us data in order to figure out what is working and what is not. Okay, so if the registrar of voters may think it is something that is problematic now, but as we move forward and it starts going and you start doing list maintenance and you do the things that I've just put in there, why they're important, they're going to be, we sent out 950,000 voter notices because we had 950,000 notices of change of addresses and we only got 100,000 back. It said that all 850 of them were valid. Well, you're going to go to the legislature and you're going to say, this is not really something we want to do. Or the registrar under its own authority is going to say that we're not going to do it anymore. But until they know whether it's something good, we're not going to understand that kind of stuff. We're not going to provide really good voter protections. So I leave it with that. There are many things in here that I really appreciate you guys doing. I will certainly contact you in the next few days. I mean, I just got this in front of me a couple days ago, and I'm more than willing to sit down with you and provide my comments as you guys go forward with this. I know it's going to be daunting, and I know that, as you stated to the other public commenter, this will be a living document for many, many years, and we will continue to work with you on that.
Well, thank you for your comments, Mr. Amaro. Very much looking forward to collaborating with you on it, and appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in Carson City, we'll go on to Las Vegas. For anyone interested in making public comment on Chapter 2 of the Elections Procedure Manual.
Yes, my name is Ed Euling, and congratulations for going to these extent to make sure that the registration or the records are clear about who is authorized to vote and so on. But it's one thing to have registration that's clear. It's another thing to misuse this registration. And that's what your boss and you did last year or 2 years ago. A nonpartisan candidate is required to solicit signatures of registered voters, and in my case, I submitted registered voters in the district which I was running. Some of those people had moved since they registered, and because of that, your office eliminated those people who had moved, even though they were all moved in the same district, and there was no reason to eliminate those signatures from my solicitation, or I've forgotten what's the name of the document is, and so it's great that you're getting accurate records, but it's not great that you're misusing these records. All that I was required to do was get signatures of registered voters.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Euling. We'll review the chapter and make sure that, and you'll see as we move forward with our review of the procedure manual over the coming days. Chapters 4 and 5 cover candidates and campaigns, and Chapter 5 covers petitions. And I think we'll likely have some meaningful discussion around the petitions chapter. But thank you for your comments. Seeing no one else in Las Vegas for public comment, broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone, please?
If you would like to provide public comment on Chapter 2, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good morning again. This is Iris Stone again, IRISSTONE. And before I begin, I want to just say, yes, thank you so much for the enormous effort that is going into updating this information. It's very much appreciated, and I hope that you take our comments and my comments in that spirit. With that, let me talk about voter challenges on page 17. The change of address section that pertains to maintaining the accuracy of voter records by cross-checking voter addresses against data from the DMV, USPS National Change of Address, or NCOA, and the Electronic Registration Information Center, ERIC. Overall, this process has been very reactive, time-consuming, and I know we try to be more and more proactive as time goes on. And I believe that there is another data source that potentially should be helpful, and maybe multiple, and that's what I want to bring your attention to. I think the Nevada Secretary of State's office should consider implementing a more modern and proactive process by using commercial data to help manage voter rolls in real time. Besides the USPS NCOA, Another reliable source of change of address is the proprietary change of address, or PCOA. This is a supplementary service using private data from sources like magazine publishers and credit card companies. While NCOA is USPS certified and catches many changes already, the PCOA would capture moves from people who didn't file an address change with the USPS. In addition, some states are looking at credit card bureau data like Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax. And additional sources could be utility records and other verified public sources. Once the data would be flagged using these sources, the existing NVRA recommended process for verification can be used, right? In other words, the county clerk sends a mailer to confirm the correct address. If the voter doesn't respond, he or she is marked inactive until further investigation is completed, etc. Adding some of these new sources, I think, would save significant taxpayer dollars. Less election mail to be sent out, including mail ballots, less returned election mail to be processed, recorded, and reported, including mail ballots, and it would alleviate workload in the election administration. This would lastly result in more accurate voter rolls, and that only increases voter trust in the election process. I hope you will consider this consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Mark Velocin for the record. Appreciate the comments. I will stress again one more time that if there are statutory changes or regulatory changes that enable the use of the additional programs for list maintenance purposes, we'll certainly then include it. But in the meantime, again, until there's kind of been clarity in what we can do additionally, the procedure manual really is intended to describe how things are occurring now, and not necessarily to expand upon other statutory or regulatory options. But I very much appreciate the feedback. I will look into those options, the PCOA in particular, and see if we can incorporate that into some future discussion about list maintenance processes. But thank you.
Good morning. This is Oscar Williams from Reno, Nevada. My name's spelled Ostarwilliams. I have 3 points I'd like to make regarding signatures. These things are not in the manual now, and possibly they should be. So starting with the fact that we have 3 different sets of tools to capture the images. For example, you go to the DMV, it's got a fine tip stylus, a hard plastic stylus on a glassy signature pad. When you go, and that's a statewide way to capture, statewide agency that's capturing images. And then you have 2 offered by the county. One would be when you go to the polls, you have the poll books. That has a stylus with a fat rubber tip on a glassy tablet surface, different than the DMV. But also the county offers you a paper and pen where you're scribbling your name on paper, and then that is later scanned into the system by the county. Of course, when it comes to forensic signature verification to a natural person, pen on paper is preferable. But our system now, it digitizes all the signatures for later recovery and comparison, right? The issue that is formed, so those methods of capturing might be something worth mentioning in the manual to establish them at least. But ideally, what's missing is what is called the pixels per inch, or PPI, is undefined. Is it 200 PPI, 200, 300, 400 PPI? The federal government offers guidelines, 300 PPI for standard quality images, but 400 PPI for more detailed sensitive images, such as a signature on a voter registration form. I think the manual would benefit from having clarification on the PPI for digital signature images for the recording, storing, and reproduction of, or retrieval of, what you're comparing the signature. I got one more point to make, and I'd like to ask you a question, Mark, if I may, because you mentioned before an issue of private information. Can you please clarify what is private information, and more specifically, is my signature private information? Can you answer that, please?
Absolutely. Mark Veloster for the record. And thank you, Mr. Williams, first for calling in. I was hoping that you'd review the document and make sure that the agenda got to you. So I'm happy to hear that you did and had a chance to provide feedback. So to your question, private information, there's a statute that defines what personally identifiable information is. And that information is protected. Examples include your social security number. The Secretary of State does not retain full social security numbers, but for purposes of registering to vote, we do have a database that includes individuals' last four of their social security number if provided, or Nevada driver's license number. Those are both, for example, private information that is not provided or released except in criminal investigations, really. Does that answer your question?
What is the statute you're referring to?
Mark Veloster for the record. If you will give me just a moment, I will check and see if I can pull it up. One moment, please.
Okay, well, while you do that, you didn't mention signatures, and my understanding, in terms of the federal law, signatures are private information. So my final point is, it's a positive one, is, by the way, I had a nice meeting with the Registrar of Voters, Andrew McDonald, in mid-October, and we talked about how signatures vary and the need to maintain updated signatures. And I think that's a good idea, even though it may not be statutorily mandated on a more frequent basis than I think is necessary. I mean, listen, between each election cycle, what does it hurt to send out a letter saying, you're welcome to update your signature so we have an accurate record of any little changes or subtleties in your signature over time. I know my signature has changed over time. And so that's, from my point of view, a welcome thing, but part of it is we had a signature drive earlier this year, and it was a postcard. I'm not signing a postcard and sending it through the mail, okay? If you want to update my signature, if you want me to update my signature, it has to be in a sealed protected envelope. This is a problem you have with your current mail ballot envelopes. Signature is exposed on the outside. Is my signature private information? Is that ballot legal? That mail ballot return envelope, it exposes my signature. Is that really legal? When we talk about private info, what does it mean, sir? And what statute do you refer to?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Williams. Mark Veloster for the record. 2 points. One, the statute that identifies personal information is NRS 603A.040. NRS 603A. And the second point, signatures under existing statutes are not private. Want to clarify that as well.
Well, I think that's in violation of federal law. It's my impression that signatures are private. They certainly should be. It is the gateway to protecting my valuables. Anybody that has access to my signature can usually forge documents, steal my house from underneath me, create a request for government benefits, social security numbers in other states. And this is exactly what's happening around the country. Identity theft has cost Nevada, I think it was a 2023 FBI thing, over $157 million. Right? Your answer that signatures are not private is inadequate, sir. And I really wish that you would go back and look at that and reconsider that, because if we're going to have a problem going forward, if my signature is not protected, I will refuse your elections that expose my signature, whether it be updating my signature or mailing in a ballot. It's not okay. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Williams. We will certainly take that back and review it. And if it is appropriate for a potential suggestion during the upcoming legislative session, the upcoming regular legislative session in 2027, it may well be that gets discussed there. But until that time, sir, appreciate the feedback, and we'll continue to keep you posted on how that discussion develops.
Doesn't matter what the state of Nevada thinks. It's a federal fucking law, you dude.
Thank you, Chair. We have no additional callers for public comment on Chapter 2.
Thank you, Broadcasting. With that being said, we will close public comment on Chapter 2 and move on to agenda item number 8. This is public comment on matters other than the Elections Procedure Manual. Comments in this case will be limited to 2 minutes per person. If anyone is interested in providing public comment about a matter not on the agenda, please come forward. We'll start here in Carson City. Seeing none. Las Vegas. Seeing none. On the phone, Broadcast, can you please check on the phones if there's, this is for the final public comment on matters not on the agenda, please.
If you would like to provide general public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, please press star 9.
Good afternoon, Officer Williams again. I could ask it as a question or as just sort of a statement, and it would be, the president has created an executive order back in March regarding election integrity. In my understanding, he's preparing to do another one that would deter us from universal mail ballots using certain equipment. And I guess I'd like to ask you as a question, what's your response to that? Or should I just do as a statement like, we need to do this. I think this is the right thing. You take it either way, sir. Balls in your court. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Williams. Mark Voloshin for the record. For this section, as it is public comment not related to the procedure manual or the agenda, I think it would probably be most appropriate if you could make the statement, and then potentially if there's interest in discussing it at a future time, we could set that follow-on meeting up, please.
Well, very well. As a statement, I think that it behooves the state to consider the executive orders by the president. One was issued, I believe, March 25th, and I understand there's another one that is forthcoming. This could have significant impacts on how elections are conducted. Certainly, there would be an effect on the election procedures manual as a result. It tends to lend itself to less reliance on vulnerable electronic systems and greater reliance on natural persons to check in voters, verify signatures, hand mark paper ballots, hand count paper ballots, so on and so forth. And additionally, we would like to see more precinct locations. I think vote centers are not the best way to go for various reasons, but that's a larger discussion for another time. That is my statement. I appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Chair, we have no additional callers on the line for general public comment.
Thank you, broadcasting. We will close the final agenda item 8 for the general public comment, and agenda item 9 is an adjournment of the meeting. I do want to remind everyone that tomorrow we will have a similar meeting, and again on Friday. Tomorrow we'll cover chapters 3, which is elections, chapter 4, candidates and campaigns, and chapter 5, which is petitions. And then on Friday, chapter 6, city clerks, chapter 7, election security, along with appendix A. So again, those are on the website, nvsos.gov. If you look under election resources, you'll find the link to the elections procedure manual, and it's also included in the agenda. That being said, appreciate everyone's comments and involvement today. This public meeting is adjourned. Thank you.